C. Prophetic signals that explain and corroborate the possibility of the fall of the debris from heaven. This section is directly related to the description of the first section, especially the first and fourth introductions, which contain a number of hadiths of the Prophet peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, that are mentioned as signs of things to come. By paying attention to these signs, we will find that they correspond to astronomical descriptions of the effects of meteor falls. 1. The great famine that befell the earth. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "What is meant by drought is not that they are deprived of rain, but that they are given rain, and are given more rain, but the earth will not grow a single crop." Muslim, Al-Fitan, Hadith, No. 2904. Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "There will come to mankind a time when the sky will give rain, but the earth will not grow crops." Al-Hakim, Al-Fitan wa Al-Malahim, Hadith No. 8567. He said, this hadith has a Sahih chain of transmission, and was confirmed by Ad-Dahabi. Explanation: these two hadiths reveal the strongest facts that indicate the falling of debris from the sky. Both of them indicate the scientifically confirmed fact that the famine occurred after the fall of the meteor. In order to make it clear to us how to interpret this evidence, in this way, we say, the normal practice in the world of plants is that when the method of planting is perfect, the plant will grow. However, for any plant to grow fully, it must have carbon dioxide, sunlight, soil, and water. The soil already exists. The rain, as mentioned in the hadith, has already fallen. But the earth could not grow crops when there was a famine for the last 2 years, as a result of preventing crops from growing. The most likely reason here is that the sunlight was prevented from reaching the earth. Astronauts say that after the meteor's fall to Earth, a thick ring of smoke rose up to cover the entire globe, blocking the Earth from sunlight for at least a full year. This resulted in the death of the humus layer and the complete or partial inhibition of plant growth. Here, we can observe an almost perfect correspondence between the scientists' descriptions and the Prophet's instructions that indicate the hindrance of crop growth, even though the rains continue to fall as usual. This is the situation that the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, described as famine, and he did not state that the lack of rain itself was the cause of famine. This is an amazing saying, and shows how precise the hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is in describing the future. As in the past, the truth is that drought is not when we are deprived of rain, because the absence of rain is a common situation on the Earth's globe. Rain falls on a certain place for a certain period of time, then it does not rain afterwards. Or at the very least, there is usually a layer of humus remaining, both in that place and in other places close to it. This normal drought does not prevent rain from falling. This is a normal phenomenon that we call a figurative drought economic crisis. The real famine, however, is when it rains, but does not allow any crops to grow on the earth. This is what is called a famine, and there is no difference between the two types of famine. Abdul H. ibn Amr ibn Ash, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that he said, the Dajjal has certain signs. When the springs dry up, the rivers run out of water, the fragrant flowers turn yellow, Madzij and Hamdan move away from Iraq, and Kinnisran descends. Then you wait for Dajjal in the morning, or in the afternoon. Al-Hakim, Al-Fitan, commented on it, it is Sahih, and Ad-Dahabi confirmed it. We say, these signs all point to an abnormal state of famine, which is what happens before the appearance of the Dajjal. They also indicate the occurrence of 3 famines in the years leading up to the appearance of the Dajjal. This hadith helps us to understand the meaning of the Dajjal's complete questioning, and the one who accompanied him about the date palm groves of Bison, and about the spring of Zughur. He asked them about the places they knew in their country. Then he pointed out the disappearance of water and the cessation of plant growth there. He asked them about the places they knew in their country. Then he pointed out the disappearance of water and the cessation of plant growth there. This report explains that this condition will be generalized, destroying large areas. This is an abnormal and unusual situation that will destroy the earth. Perhaps this event will occur after the appearance of the sign of the last days, in the form of smoke. In addition, this answer also contains a very amazing clue, which is the yellowing of a flower that smells good. This may be due to two reasons, either a lack of water or a blockage of sunlight reaching the flower. Furthermore, this condition results in a weak assimilation or photosynthesis process. If the cause is the second obstruction of sunlight, then this corroborates the conclusion I have already presented, namely that the result is caused by smoke blocking sunlight, as well as being a corroboration for the two hadiths narrated by Abu Huraira and Anas bin Malik about famine. 2. Rocks marked from the sky, similar to the rocks that hit the people of Lot. Abu Huraira, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The hour will not come until people are showered with rain, from which no houses made of clay are protected, and only houses made of animal hair are protected." Sahih Lunyu Hibban 15174. Explanation: houses made of clay refers to urban houses built of burnt stone. The term in this hadith refers to permanent houses, or houses made of bricks and cement. As for the houses made of animal hair, it is a metaphor for the houses that villagers or people living in remote areas usually live in. Usually, a house in the city made of cement and concrete is stronger in protecting its inhabitants than a house made of animal fur. This is common knowledge. But what is strange about this hadith is that it rains in such a way that no house made of clay or stone is protected from it, while at the same time houses made of animal hair are protected. This is a strange thing, contrary to what usually happens, and contrary to experience. The human mind is at a loss to imagine what is meant by this hadith. What is the rain that makes a house built of stone unable to protect its inhabitants, while at the same time a house made of animal hair can protect its inhabitants? So that we are not confused about the interpretation of this hadith, we say, this hadith contains a very amazing sign, corroborating what I have described about the possibility of pebbles falling from the sky. And so that this matter becomes clear to us, we say, whoever examines the wording of the verses of the Quran will find that the word mathar, rain, in its various forms, amtharna, matharan, umtharak, amtharna, in most verses, is never used except to indicate the throwing of stones from the sky. The majority of these words are used to indicate the punishment inflicted on the people of Lot. Thus, the Quranic word mathar is not meant to refer to the ordinary rain that comes down from the clouds. What is meant by it is the throwing of stones from the sky. These stones have been described as such in the story of Lot alayhi salam. They have been marked and named Musawama, and they came from sigil. From the meaning of these two words, it is understood that on each stone has been written or recorded in it who deserves the punishment. Or in other words, it is a stone that is thrown with a certain direction and target from the sky. The stone will not miss its target forever. If we describe only part of the level of accuracy and accuracy in choosing targets from some of today's sophisticated weapons that have experienced technological advances in such a rapid manner, then the accuracy of the stones from the sky to choose their targets might be able to be imagined similar to a missile, or what is commonly called a smart missile. We admire the technological capabilities of man-made weapons. But what if the stones are directed to their targets by the power of the all-wise and all-seeing? It can be said that the use of the word mathar is a metaphor for the throwing of rocks from the sky, and this is a Quranic expression. If we attribute mathar to the character of stones raining from the sky, and we characterize it as such, then it becomes easy for us to understand the meaning of the hadith. Thus, the hadith indicates that there will be a Rabbani punishment that only affects the cities and spares the villagers. This separation between the city dwellers and the villagers is already known. That is, the stones are Rabbani's punishment for the blatant disobedience committed by the city dwellers. Only, the reality does show that the immorality, luxury, and decadence that necessitates the punishment is more prevalent in the cities, not in the countryside. We can observe the facts and realities of our times, and there is no need to debate, even by two people. There is no one who is unaware of the prevalence of evil in urban areas, especially large cities and metropolitan areas. This hadith describes the Rabbani rain that has been named. It has been directed by His wisdom, not a haphazard punishment carried out in the usual way, as the materialists suggest, which is in the form of stones, that Allah, may He be glorified and exalted, will only fall on the city dwellers because of their disobedience that necessitated such a punishment. At the same time, this rain of stones will not fall on the people of the countryside, because they have not committed any sin that warrants such punishment. Attention! What is meant by this hadith is not, as some have hastily understood, that this rain does not protect houses made of stone, but rather that houses made of animal hair are protected from it, and that it falls on both types of houses at the same time. However, the hadith indicates that the one who is protected from the rain is the one who comes out of the area that is destroyed. The houses made of stone are a metaphor for the urban areas that will be totally destroyed, and the signs point in that direction. As for houses made of animal hair, they are a metaphor for houses in the countryside that will not be hit by this rain of stones that has been named. Other signs that may result from the occurrence of natural events. These are some signs of the future that cannot be determined with certainty as to what they mean and when they will occur, but which are likely to be closely related to natural events, especially as they contain a number of indications to the effect that some of these signs occur after major events, or after abnormal changes to our Earth's sphere. 1. The return of the thick humus layer in the Arabian Peninsula. Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, "The hour will not come until wealth becomes plentiful and abundant, so that a man goes out with the zakah of his wealth, and finds no one to receive it from him, and so that the land of Arabia becomes pasture land again, and rivers flow." Muslim, as zakah, hadith no. 157. We say, this hadith contains a clear indication of some natural and essential changes in the Earth's sphere that result in an overall change in climate. It is inconceivable to us that the Arabian Peninsula would be transformed into a grassland fed by many rivers unless there were fundamental changes in the weather and climate. The possibility of this happening, according to contemporary facts, is not impossible. This hadith also contains evidence that shows the Arabian Peninsula in ancient times was grassland and had many rivers. The reason for this is the use of the word tafidu, return, which indicates the return of something to its past state. Corroborating this meaning is the existence of a number of petroleum basins under the Arabian Peninsula, which scientists say were formed due to changes in organic substances, animals and plants, all of which indicate animals and plants were once very abundant in the region in the past. The word tadu implies what we have mentioned, and if it meant anything other than that, the Prophet, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, would have used the word tatahawala, which implies a change in something from its past state. I have noticed that some commentators on the hadith, especially among the contemporary scholars, have taken the view that what is meant by this sign is what we see today in the form of many oil refineries and prosperity in the Arabian Peninsula. This opinion is haphazardly attributed to certain tendencies that are not free from imposing this hadith to support the programs of some governments in the Arabian Peninsula to divert the flow of rivers from Iraq or elsewhere, or to drain glaciers into the Arabian Peninsula, and so on. These analyses are too forced. whereas the hadith itself contains indications that discourage the use of such an analysis. After all, the result of the day of glacial retreat, or the deflection of rivers, would only have been the creation of new grasslands on some tributaries in certain locations. This hadith, however, describes the total and complete transformation of the Arabian Peninsula into grasslands and rivers. The wording of this hadith does not agree with these various analyses. The reason that led some people to accept this analysis was that they found it difficult to imagine what others had imagined, namely, how the barren desert could be transformed into lush gardens and flowing rivers. In my view, what some people have devised is relative in essence, even though it is measured by something that is visible, not absolute. The history of this Earth globe testifies to the essential changes that have occurred to it, from the dry age to the rainy age to the ice age. These changes are not impossible from our globe. Any change in the Earth's sphere, whether it is a magnetic deviation or a change in its orbit and line of rotation, is the main cause of the melting of the ice at the two poles, and such a change is not impossible. All these matters are in the hands of Allah. What man designs does not remain as it is. And the scientific reports that come from here and there, whether from astronomers, climatologists, or physicists, describe conditions that are like this. Relationship between the sign and natural events. This hadith indicates the existence of an abnormal change, even a change that has never been envisioned in the laws of natural science. But it is conceivable that the conditions for this change, and the total change in the rules of nature, cannot but be the result of a major event that befell our globe and affected its overall state. This explains to us the connection between this sign, the return of the mudflats and rivers to the Arabian Peninsula, and a number of natural events, because the impact of celestial debris on the Earth is certain to result in a complete change in nature that also damages its weather and climate. Furthermore, the damage to the weather and climate resulted in essential changes to everything we see today, and the Earth's entry into a new climate cycle that has its own rules that are different from the old climate. One of the changes brought about by the new system of rules is what happened in the Arabian Peninsula, which was a return to the old climate of heavy rainfall. The result is the return of rivers and the spread of the humus layer that plants need. 2. Great destruction accompanied by geological earthquakes on the Earth's surface. Abdullah ibn Hawala radiyallahu anhu reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said to me, O Lunyu Hawala, when you see that the caliphate has descended on the purified land, then indeed the time of many earthquakes, turmoil, and great things is near. The hour at that time will be nearer to people than this hand of mine is to your head. Abu Dawud, Al-Jihad, Hadith No. 2535. Salama bin Nufail as-Sukuni reported that the Messenger of Allah, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said, even you remain until you say, when? And you will come to the destroyers that some of you destroy others. Before the day of resurrection, there will be violent deaths, after which there will be years of earthquakes. Ahmad. Explanation. These two hadiths indicate two signs, both of which are closely related to the falling of debris from the heavenly bodies to the earth, namely,